Good evening, you handsome lot. This Vauxhall Insignia has driven 4 hours this morning. Well, he arrived at 7:30 and it is a 1.6 CDTI and it has come in for a bit of a timing chain. For those asking, it has covered 164,000 miles.
Shall we go ahead and get involved in this vehicle? Now, the first thing that we need to do, because we need to take the subframe off this car, we're going to jump in, disconnect the steering column, which is 11mm down the bottom there, just behind a little bit of a boot. Can you see it? Just disconnect that shaft down there. And then before we disconnect the battery, we're going to jump on the launch, which is a launch Euro Tab 3 for anybody that's going to ask. Do a full system health scan, create it into a report, and save it, because this might save a little bit of tripping up in the future. Oh, ever since you've done my chain, this has happened. But however, we have got 3 glow plugs that have failed, so we could possibly check them for that. Well, check them out for the customer. I can't get my words out today. It's going to be a long day. As you can see now, we've got that vehicle pretty much up at a working height for us, and we need to go ahead, disconnect the battery, because we need to remove the whole side of this engine, and that is including the gearbox, clutch, flywheel. Once we've disconnected the battery and removed the battery box out of the way, we're going to send the vehicle up and drain all the coolant out of it. As you can see, we've now got the vehicle up in the air. I'm just draining my coolant out into my lovely little receptacle. I've just put a little bit of a pipe there, just so we're not splashing all over the subframe, because I absolutely hate mess. While that's draining out, we're going to go ahead, remove the ball joints, tracker ends. Now, I have given them a little bit of a coat with some Launch Power Lube Plus, and that is going to help them, especially with the threads, lubricate them, getting them off, saves them spinning in the hubs. I'm sure you all know. Right, let's get cracking. Well, I have got kind of carried away. We've removed the ball joints, tracker ends, anti-roll bar links. We've separated the dry shaft nuts, taken them off, taken the exhaust off, also the inner wheel arch, all the belly panel off the front here. So much stuff to take off, and we're nowhere near the job that we need to do. We've got the exhaust down the back there, which has got knock sensors because it's got AdBlue. Thankfully, all the sensors have come out of the exhaust. We've undone the AdBlue injector, which is tucked up there, undone the electronic power steering rack. And there is one sensor for the exhaust that goes here, which are 2 bolts. We're about to snap, so I've had to just work them back and two. Right, I'm in a position now, I can go ahead and get the subframe off. So I'm going to get my apprentice on my transmission jack and get it down. Well, everything for now is finished underneath, and we can concentrate on the top end of the engine. We've got to get the injectors out, the rocker cover off, the intake motor flap, throttle body, whatever you want to call it, the EGR pipe around the back here, and also the EGR cooler. And by the looks of it, if you have a little look, it is blowing past just the EGR bypass valve here. So we're going to have a little look at that, I think, and inform the customer, I think. Right, should we go ahead and make a start on things? Where do I start first? Do I go EGR first or rocker cover? Let's go EGR. Let's go get the EGR valve off. Oh, I'm not going to lie. I am so far behind schedule on this job because everything, all the little fiddly plastic things, they're just been an absolute nightmare. But however, we have got the EGR and EGR cooler off now in a little pile that is building up ever so slowly, but we are getting there. Now I need to go ahead. Now I've already removed the leak-off pipes off the injectors. Please be careful, because these little T-pieces, they will snap. They are extremely, extremely brittle. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this rocker cover off, and I'm going to chuck it into a little bit of a time lapse. There you go, with a little bit of magic, that rocker cover is now off. As you can see, it is pretty black in there, I'm not going to lie. But all them injectors have come out relatively easy, apart from cylinder 4 was a little bit, it needed a little bit of a jiggery pokery. But what we're going to do now, I think, is get this upper timing cover off. Now there is a few 13 mils, and there is a little hole there where you put your bolt back in, and it'll just help you pull that cover off. That now is that upper timing cover off, and to be honest with you, the tension is not that far out, but I should imagine overnight that oil will flow back. And the simple reason why it flows back is because Vauxhall never put a gasket behind the tensioner, and that is the only reason why they rattle. Now, with every single bolt that you take off on these cars, make sure you either put them back in the same place, or you get yourselves a little bit of cardboard and put the bolts in a little bit of a pattern, so you know when you're assembling it back together, you know exactly which way or where the bolts go. Right, so now I've got to go ahead, because we need to take a gearbox off, I've got to get my engine frame, which goes off the wings to the front panel, and that's going to support the engine while I get the gearbox off. That now is my engine support all in place, and it is securing the engine. I haven't done the gearbox mounts down there, so we can take this vehicle up. I am way behind. Normally this gearbox is on the floor and the timing chain is off by now, but I'm absolutely, oh, everything's just against me. Everything is against me on this one, unfortunately. All right, let's get it up in the air and get this gearbox off. Tell you what, it never rains, but it pours, doesn't it? That mount there, I can remember the last, not the last one I did, or the one before that, the dry shafted seas of the mount, and I had to take the gearbox off with the shaft in place. Oh, well, I'm going to have to do it to that, to this one as well. As you can probably tell, this car's doing me head in. But nonetheless, we can't let it get to us. We have to plod on and we have to get the job done. Got my little transmission jack now. We're going to try and get this gearbox out with that shaft in place. As you lot know by now, I do not like mess, but we have got a little bit we're going to tidy up as we're going along. Just look at all the bits that I've got on off in this car already. Crazy. And all this here. There's no need for it, is there? Right, now we need to, I've gone ahead, draining the oil into my lovely little receptacle. Now I do need the crankshaft locking tool, and there is a tiny little dimple by there, which aligns up with that hole there, and that allows you to slide that tool in and tighten them two 17s up, and that will hold the crank nice and tight. I'll lock it in place, and we can drop the car down after the oil's drained out, and we can get the camshafts lined up. With that crankshaft locked off now, we need to come and do the camshafts. Now there is a tool that you put just on the camshaft lobe there. There's a little hole for it that it slides in like that. And there is a hole in the camshaft, and if it's out or it's not playing ball, it won't slide in. So what you have to do then is grab a 22mm spanner on the camshaft, give it a little wiggle. That's all you need, minimal. And that now is timed up. Now let's get the vehicle back up in the air and get that lower timing cover off. Because I'm a little bit behind on schedule, I've gone ahead and removed the sump and the lower timing cover. Just have a little look at that chain now. I wonder if it was rattling when it first started up. Right, should we go ahead and get the chain off? It's very simple to do. Pry bar, just about by there, prise the tensioner back and put a little locking pin in. That'll keep the tension off the chain. We can go ahead and just get all the gears and God knows what off. Right, well, you know how this job has fought me pretty much straight from the start with one thing and another. And anyway, timing chain is off, as you've just seen with that little bit of a time lapse. Now, I know you should check these parts when they turn up, but you shouldn't have to. I've just gone to get the timing chain kit out of the box. Guides, bolts, guides, chain, pulley, pulley, pulley. No timing chain tensioner. Oh, I'm going to tell you a little story now what somebody has done with this. These timing chains, you can do a prevention and just change the timing chain tensioner. So what they've done, or what somebody has done, was ordered the timing chain kit, taken the tensioner out of it, and sent the timing chain back to the parts supplier. It's not my fault, it's not their fault. Should I have checked it? I don't know. But you shouldn't have to check it, should you? That is a bit... But anyway, this car is definitely not going to be done by... Well, it might be running about this time tomorrow, which is now 3:30. But to keep me going, I have got a lot of cleaning of all the covers. I've got all the sides of the engine to clean, and also the sump area to clean as well. Right, I'm going to get cracking. We'll check in tomorrow. Well, it is 3:30 now. Absolutely gutted about that. Right, well, we are now into the next morning. It's now 10 to 9. I've had to stop off at Vauxhall this morning, get some gaskets and injector seals. And the new timing chain kit turned up last night at about 4:45. So it weren't too bad. Because I've got so much to do today, I can't really do much content. So what I'm gonna have to do is keep showing you little bits of stages when I'm plodding on. As you can see, that engine is absolutely spotless. We've got the timing covers down there, which are clean. I'm just soaking the sump now in a little bit of engine grease, elbow grease. I'm gonna go ahead now and chuck this chain on. Right, well, I have got the timing chain on now. The camshaft pulley isn't tight, but the reason why these fail is because of this little bad boy. The original tensioner doesn't have a gasket behind it, and what happens is overnight the oil flows back and it causes the timing chain to rattle and stretch. But we're going to put the new revised one on and get this torqued up. Now the tensioner's on, make sure that the camshaft sprocket is loose, because when we pull that pin now, that chain will have nice tension on it. And there we go. Just as easy as that. Can't I? Bloody perfect. Now, with everything finished off on the engine side of things regarding timing, everything is torqued to spec. And when I've finished talking things, I'll put a little green line so I know exactly what's been done and what hasn't been done. Now, let's move round to the timing cover. Now, these do need sealant on them. And what I use is, where's it gone? This stuff, BJ silicone sealing compound, and it is absolutely fantastic. I swear by it. Now, always put a little bit of a V in the tip of it, because it gives a perfect beading all the way around. Now, make sure that everything is spotless on the timing cover and the engine. Now, remember, it is a little bit colder today, so we're going to have to leave this go off a little bit longer and leave it just so it gets a little bit of a skin on it, and then we can get it torqued up. There we have it. That is one lower timing cover on. We've now cleaned the block down. That is nice and clean. And also the sump is pretty much clean. Well, that's as best as I'm going to get it. We've applied some sealer. Now, when you're replacing these, always order that rubber O-ring from Vauxhall, because you don't get it in the timing kit, and it is always good practice because these rubbers go extremely hard. Right, so we'll go ahead and get that sumperoonie on. Right, sump's on, lower timing cover's on. Now, I've dropped the vehicle back down to working height. We've got to torque the camshaft pulley sprocket gear up. Now, how you do it, get your 22mm on your camshaft, and you have to counter hold it, so when you're tightening it up, the pulleys aren't turning. And if you've done it right, you know the pin that you put in, that should slide out without any restrictions whatsoever. Right, we've got to put the upper timing cover back on now. While that sealant's going off, we can just go ahead and smash the rest of the work out. Bearing in mind it is having a clutch and a flywheel as well. Got a lot of work to do, and this car's got to go back to London tonight, believe it or not. Anyway, let's get it fitted. We're now making good tracks. We've got the clutch, flywheel dated, everything is torqued up to spec, and we've also put a brand new concentric slave in the gearbox. Now, I don't think I'm going to bore you really until I'm kind of getting the injectors in, sort of thing. So I might do a little bit of a montage of it going back together. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, because well, it is now 11:45. Will we get this car up and running and on his way by 5 o'clock? Ooh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. There we go. That car is 90% back together. Fresh coolant, new injector copper washers, new rocker cover. I've cleaned the EGR pipe out because that was absolutely blocked solid. Yeah, I'm just about to get on the key now. We've got the injectors disconnected because we don't want it to fire. I'm going to wind it over for about 30 seconds or so, let the oil pressure build up, and then we'll plug the injectors back in, and then we'll come back for the first start. Well, that's the car wound over, and the oil pressure has built up because I can hear the tension go tick, 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 tick. And then it went nice and quiet. So what I'm going to do now, well, I have connected the injectors back up. I'm going to go for its first starter. Fingers crossed, if we've done everything right, this shit will run lumpy for a little while until the fuel pressure sorts itself out, and then we'll be good to go, I think. Right, well, there we go. Sounding is generally sounding like a little Singer sewing machine. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, considering everything, and I mean everything, has been against me, the subframe bolts, the excessive carbon build-up in all the EGR coolers and stuff, the timing chain incident, but anyway, this car is happy ticking over. I'm going to let it get up to temperature. Like I said, it's now on 4:15. It is not going to be ready tonight, and this is not like me to hit my deadline. I've got that much stuff to put back on. I've got all the wheel arches, all the inner wheel liners, the under trays, all the splash guards, and I've still got to take it for a long test drive. So what I'm going to do is let this car get up to temperature, get a bit of heat in it, and leave the sealant go off overnight. And then in the morning, I'll take it for a long test drive. Customer could pick it up, take it away, and go back to working them. That's where it's come from. And he can go back to work, because I think it is a bit of a taxi. And he's ready for a few more 1,000 miles, I should imagine. But anyway, if you have liked the video, please hit that subscribe and like button. And I will definitely 100% see you on the next one. If you, this has been one of them jobs. But again, let's get assembled.